The Lindbergh Schools Special Board of Education Tax Rate Hearing Meeting, number 1604. It has now been called to order. 2.0, Presentation of Estimated 2024 Tax Rate. I had to find Joelle, sorry. Joelle,
Yep.
you are up.
So there you go. You guys got to come early on a good day. This is not normal, but this is the time of year when we have a public hearing about our tax rate. Of course, our tax rate is based on the assessed valuation from St. Louis County. So on this slide, I just put our assessor's office and the link there, and it explains how your taxes are calculated. It'll also give you information if you wanted to protest your taxes. All of that information is on there. There's a point at this time of year, we receive data from St. Louis County on non-reassessment years, which is this year in July. And then we receive it again in, we get it in July, then it's July, and then we get it mid to late September. We have to set our tax rate by 10/1 according to the state auditor's office. That's when all municipalities set their rate. St. Louis County right now, as people are protesting taxes, they are taking those to their Board of Equalization. If those are not settled, those protests are not settled by the 10/1 date, they'll go on to the State Tax Commission. And there's a reason I'm telling you about the Board of Equalization process, as you'll see on the next slide. So this is our assessed values before BOE. So right now, St. Louis County is in the process of reviewing any protests that they can settle right here in St. Louis County and not send onward to Jeff City, which may take a month, may take a year, may take 3 years to get settled. This information that you see here was posted in our municipalities, our city municipalities here in the district, and at our schools, plus on our website. It shows the assessed valuation that the county set to us in July, and at this point it's slightly down in some areas. But again, we will get a final one after BOE sometime in the next couple weeks, and I'm trending that will be probably level with last year. Another number that we predict and don't have the data yet for final is what new construction there is in the district. New construction, we don't have a lot of vacant land, so it's not as easy as saying something got built on vacant land. It's when there's, I guess you could say the Crestwood Mall and that project, and now where it's gone to, it's new construction. The value there is much more than it was when it was just vacant land and blighted. So we do see new construction. We have a lot of things that have been being improved in the area. The Bass Pro Shop is another one. That was a Toys R Us prior, and they redid that whole plaza, and that was kind of new construction because it was pretty much making it a lot better than it was prior. The other one that's every year we see personal property, and that's our community members buying their personal property. You guys are used to writing that check, so I don't have to explain what that is. So the next slide is what happens if assessed valuation changes after the tax rate is established. This is where I talked to my finance committee. This is where we can recoup those dollars, Dr. Lake, that you were asking me about. So after the assessed valuation is set, when we get the numbers in late September, we will actually have our levy on the books with the state auditor's office, and that will be the levy that is on your taxes when you get those in December. If we get our final assessed valuation in December, because it's final in December, we usually get the final AV sometime in January, and that is lower than we lower or higher. There's a difference. Then we can go back and, just like a tax return, I can go back and amend the tax rate and recoup that money in future years. So it's not, I like the county to be accurate between October and December with their AV, because it's not very much fun going back and amending all these tax rates. But we do that. It's because they didn't give us the right information in late September. Next slide. This is the second part of the estimated tax rate that's posted throughout the district. It shows by fund. We have general and teachers fund, which are operating funds. We have a debt service fund, which is 100% for principal and interest on our debt, and I have a total levy. There's also in St. Louis County, it's the only county in Missouri that has to set rates in 5 different classes. So we have to calculate a rate for residential, agricultural, commercial, and personal property. Right now, the residential rate is the lowest rate in Missouri. I haven't looked to see what Ladou's rate is for this next year, but it's the lowest residential rate right now. and it will be maintained at that rate for next year. So, next slide. So this, annually, we get our assessed valuation, and there are triggers that can cap assessed valuation for taxpayers. I think there's a misnomer that your assessed valuation goes up, that means your taxes go up. There are triggers in this formula that if CPI, which is inflation, if the inflation rate is higher than our actual growth, we can only grow by our actual growth. We had an anomaly the last couple of years when inflation has been high, that the State Auditor's Office caps all growth at 5%, and I'll show you some examples here. So there is a Hancock Amendment in the statute for Missouri that protects taxpayers from large spikes in assessed valuation, and I'll give you an example of that on the next slide. This side's hard to see, but I have to put it on here. It's 10 years worth of data, and I like to show the 10 years just because it shows reassessment and non-reassessment years. And if you look at the red numbers on the 7th line down, which is actual growth from 2015 to 2024, it shows the percent growth on an annual basis on assessed valuation. So we've had some big years in there. I'm sure everybody remembers 2019 when assessed valuation in the area grew almost 18%. Some of that is the value of properties. Each assessor, there's not a set rule for assessors. It's a political position. Every county has their own assessor. Maybe they were catching up. So that was a large AV in our area. The next year, it was a non-reassessment year, and it was 0.35. My big note on these is we can only grow by the lowest number there. So in 2020, if it was 0.35, then we have to roll our levy. We have to, let's look at 2019 when the CPI or inflation was 1.9 and the actual growth was almost 18%, we had to roll our levy back 31 cents. And that meant we're going to tax on the property that existed between the 2 years, those taxpayers are going to pay the same dollar amount. So there is a protection to taxpayers that we just don't get an AV and then charge you the same rate. So over time, that is what got our residential rate to the 275, is because this district has strong real estate, agricultural, and commercial values, and then assessed valuation continues to grow. We have an actual maximum levy set with the State Auditor's Office at 443, but we're way below that because we have to roll back when AV goes too high. So the last 2 years, inflation was 7% in 22 and 6.5 in 23. This year it's at a 3.4, which I'm hoping that means we're getting back to some normalcy. I've been in this field for 30 years and never have seen in all that time inflation rate of 6.5 or 7 on the calculation, this type of calculation. So this year we're looking at a potential 2-cent increase. One, we may be recouping some dollars from last year, which means our January number was a slightly lower than when we set the rate. So I'll go back and amend that return, and we get that few cents for a few years. And we are also waiting for the final numbers. So these are estimated numbers. We should have the finals up, but we don't believe that will go above 2-cent increase. Next slide. So key takeaways. Number one, our debt service levy has remained unchanged. That was a big story when we went out for our prop. Thanks to the taxpayers, we're doing a lot of projects in the district. That debt levy has remained the same and has been at that level for at least 5 years. So we are doing all those projects within the same tax rate. There has not been an increase. The operating levy may increase by several cents. You guys have the estimate right now. The other thing that we looked at is everybody can pay their taxes, but some people don't. So there's a collection percentage. And last year for St. Louis County, we had a larger percentage of protested taxes. And like I said, if the tax protests are not settled in St. Louis County and they make it to the State Tax Commission, it all depends on how many are up there. It could take days to years to get them settled. So we lowered just slightly what we thought our collection rate was going to be for this year, which will impact our overall revenue. That was the budget that you guys adopted in June. And then I say, as my 10-year slide, it shows that the tax rate over a 10-year period has decreased 58 cents in total. The last time we did a tax levy was in 2011, and that was right after the housing market bust in 2008, and we went for a 65-cent levy, but that was the last time that an operating levy has been taken in this district. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
I would just like to emphasize, again, the bullet there that says Lindbergh Schools is at the lowest residential tax rate, $2.75 in Missouri. I am just very thankful and grateful that we live in a community where, as you said, our commercial value and residential value keeps increasing, that we're able to, well, we're required to keep this lowest residential tax rate. So yes, our taxes are going up, and that's because our property is gaining more value, and we still have this wonderful school district. I guess I am a little biased, but I think that's an important statistic, and I thank you for highlighting that on a takeaway.
Every district's different based on, their assessed values, and we are lucky with that. We have great values and a great district, so. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? All right. 3.0, hearing of citizens and petitions regarding the estimated tax rate. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward to address the Board of Education regarding the estimated tax rate? Okay, seeing no movement. 4.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn Special Board of Education meeting number 1604?
So moved.
Megan? And
Second.
I have a second by Julia. All in favor?
Rachel.
Rachel, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Board meeting 16.04 is adjourned.